No, the title is not clickbait. This may very well be the most important election of our lives. Whether you're old, whether you're young, whether you're in the middle like I am, this could be the most impactful election ever. Go ahead and apologize for the noise. We're doing some range maintenance, things like that. And it's not whether you vote for Joe Biden or whether you vote for Donald Trump or which one of them gets elected or whether you vote for RFK. That's not how this could be super impactful. The way that this could be the most impactful and important election ever is the friendships, the family relationships, and other things that you damage along the way. And I say that because I don't think anybody knows how I vote unless you're my personal acquaintance and we've talked about it. I don't think from this channel you guys know that. That's how I grew up. My parents voted the way they did. Hell, I don't even know which candidates my parents voted for when I was a child until I became an adult, and it was something we discussed. I don't know how my extended family votes for the most part, and that's the way I like it. Because at the end of the day, what you check on that ballot box is between you and that ballot box. Now I know, and they're going to be like, well, Nick, you do gun channel stuff on YouTube. You've got to support so-and-so or you've got to be against so-and-so. And I am. I have my feelings on that. Because to me, I'm not a single issue voter, but this is very important to me. And that being said, some of you go with the reference. These are very important to me. And certain things that were promised that didn't come about. So I have my feelings. I recognize that you have your feelings, and I think it's important that we collectively recognize that the people around us may feel the same way we do, and they may not, and that's okay. I know folks are going to say, well, if they elect this person, it's going to impact me this way, and the same is true if your candidate wins. The bigger issue here is that if any candidate, whether it's the one opposed to your candidate or your candidate, whatever, if the other side has enough power to do things catastrophically that you don't like, then if we're going to have any integrity about this, then your side, my side, we should be opposed to them having that same amount of power. The power is the issue. Whoever wields it is circumstantial, and history has shown that's going to change quite a bit. So collectively, if we get off social media, if we get off these gotcha debates online and have conversations with real people face to face, get out and touch grass and not just sit there at a keyboard, really driving home your next debate topic, we'll find that we have a lot more in common with each other than we're led to believe. We'll find that they, them, us, and that whole versus thing is really not all-encompassing. It might be that way on a few issues, and for some people it may be that way all the way across the board. I think we all, at our very nature, at the core, we all want similar things. We want to have enough food to eat. We want to have a roof over our heads. We want our children to be safe. And we would like the opportunity to work, create, and produce and earn. Again, I'm speaking in generalities here. But if you talk to people, they kind of want the freedom, whether they vote the same way as you or not. But I would argue most people want the freedom to believe and participate in a religion of their choice. They want their kids to be safe. They want their kids to receive a decent education if they have children. If they don't, this kind of goes across the board. We would like to earn something for the fruits of our labor and for that to mean something, and be able to use that money to provide a good life for our kids. We don't want to work all the time, right? Work-life balance is a thing. At the end of the day, we all kind of want the same thing, I feel like. And this is from talking to a lot of people. We just have different ideas of how to get there. And I don't know of a single debate that's been solved on Facebook with gotcha arguments and just driving home that next bit or regurgitating whatever you heard on the news. Whatever news station you watch, they all whatever news station you choose to watch, they all kind of peddle the same thing, that divisiveness, that us versus them. And the only reason I'm speaking about this now, it's not that I magically have all the answers. It's that I'm just over it. I'm over every 4 years. Facebook gets really predictable for a lot of the people that I have on there. Some of you guys don't use Facebook. I probably shouldn't either, but it's fun 99% of the time. And it's also a time waster, but it's neat. It's fun to post stuff up, and I do have a page for the channel over there as well. So shameless plug, if you're on Facebook, go follow the channel there. Same name as here. But we get into these just circular debates. Nobody's mind has changed. There's a certain way people conduct themselves on a keyboard virtually that they would not face to face. And this isn't I'd punch you or any kind of threat. This is just people talk differently. I have people in my daily life that feel fundamentally different on a number of things that are very important to me. Go back to this. And then even people that are okay with that feel fundamentally different than things like this. This is a suppressor for those that don't know. And we can still have conversations about why I feel the way I do and why they feel the way they do. Listening to someone else's opinion and the reasons for that opinion does not invalidate yours. I'll say it again. Listening to and seeking to understand someone else's opinion and their reasons for that opinion does not invalidate yours. It doesn't mean that your stance is somehow, if you listen to this and try to understand their viewpoint, it doesn't mean that somehow you have to change your mind because yours is invalid. What it does is it challenges your beliefs, and vice versa. If you have an honest conversation with somebody, like, why these are important to me. I have needed a firearm in my personal life. That does not invalidate the opinion of someone else whose only exposure to these was getting a notification that a loved one had died as a result of violence committed with one. Now, we can get into things like the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and that has a place in the conversation, but I would urge all of us, myself included, part of why I'm making this is a reminder for myself, to have some empathy. You never know who you're talking to and what they've experienced. Our experiences shape our perception, which shapes our opinions. And there are a lot of people whose only exposure to is what I mentioned earlier, or the news, or movies, or TV. And were it not for luck, chance, or God, depending on your beliefs, you or I might have grown up and had the same life experiences in which those things were not something that we were exposed to, where our only opinion and education, if you will, poor though it may be, came from media, movies, video games. That being said, there are a number of topics where you or I might have a strong opinion where we are the relatively uninformed party. And a small dose of humility to try to learn why other people feel the way they do has taken me to some pretty cool conversations and has had me question my beliefs. I wouldn't say that they changed all that much. At the end of the day, I am pretty much where I was before the conversation, just with a greater understanding and empathy for opinions that may not match my own. Those conversations, they're not impossible to have on social media, but they are rare. There's a certain anonymity, and even if anonymity is off the table, the distance created by having that conversation on a screen, even in this format, I'm a little bit uncomfortable having this talk because I got to put a face and you get my verbal cues and there's a little bit more intimate whatever than if I just typed all this out, right? But at the end of the day, I don't have to look at you, I'm looking at a camera. If you or I, however you may feel, we might agree, we might disagree, were to sit down across from each other physically, it's kind of hard to deny the human element there. It's kind of hard to deny that this is a living, breathing person that you're talking to whose life may have been rainbows and unicorns or it may have been a very hard, very tragic existence. We don't know that, and a lot of that shapes people's opinions. At the end of the day, does that mean that I stop trying to educate people and advocating for rights pertaining to this? No. I still think that that is, there's a reason that we have that right. I still think that if we look at the facts and the stats that we do have on that, that there is a very good argument to be made for maintaining that right and fighting for it, absolutely. And probably most importantly, to have conversations with people that may not feel the same way. Don't force them. Don't be in your face. I'm right, you're wrong. Constitution says, this, that, or the other. I know that's tempting, and I've been guilty of it myself, but at the end of the day, we have to try to understand why people feel differently. And I keep using this as an example because I prefer not to get into topics other than that, at least my own feelings on them here, because at the end of the day, that's why I started the channel. That's even though I have branched out and done a few other different things, that's still the crux of the channel. And of all my political positions, that's the one that's, it's pretty self-evident. I don't think anybody's confused on how I feel on the Second Amendment. But the other topics, again, there's no reason for me to share my positions on those at this point in time, other than to say that I have those positions. You have positions on the numerous other topics there are. They might be the same, they might be different. I don't know. No, it's disingenuous to assume that because a person feels a certain way about these, they feel, they follow whatever category straight down to the T. This is for everybody, regardless of how you feel on any other issue or how you vote or how you identify. As a human being, we're granted certain inalienable rights upon birth, as the founders phrased it, and as I personally believe, and that's one of them. So regardless on how you feel about certain things or how somebody else feels, this should be a uniting thing, similar to free speech. It's a civil right. And I think that we do ourselves in the 2A community a huge disservice by assuming that everybody that we meet in the community feels the same way. Because they don't. I can tell you firsthand, I've met a number of people that are more pro-2A or equally pro-2A as myself that would not check a lot of the boxes that most people would assume that they would. So, I'm going to close with saying this could be the most impactful and important election of our lives. Regardless of who wins, we still have family that I would say most of us want to see and spend time with and talk to. We have friends. And it would be pretty stupid, in my opinion, to throw away a friendship or a family relationship over what box somebody checks come election day. You're not going to change somebody's mind by yelling at them and beating them over the head. And how could you? And, if you were a decent human being, you'd have done what I did, regardless of what that looks like. Or you would have voted this way or that way. How could you sleep at night knowing you supported this person or that person? That doesn't change minds. Sit down, have a conversation, because just because something is of paramount importance to you doesn't necessarily mean it's of paramount importance to somebody else. And there's the ideal world in which everybody has the same understanding of any given topic, but that's just not reality. I'm not an economist. I'm not even a gun expert, but I have a strong opinion on guns based on a pretty decent experience compared to what it could be, especially in my age group. as well as life experience that help shift my opinion, as far as them in defensive roles and things like that. Does my lack of specialized knowledge on the economy mean I can't have an opinion? No. Obviously, I can have an opinion on it. It might be wrong, though. And I freely admit that. I think that we all should take a step back, turn the news off, talk to people around us, because the chances are, if your experiences mirror my own, even with people that you fundamentally disagree with, you'll have a lot in common. You'll have things that unite you. You'll have a common set of problems with the way things have been, with the way things may go. And not, I don't mean that just last administration, just in general. We have a lot more in common than the TV, than Facebook, than polls, than articles would lead you to believe. The left, the right, they, us, them, us. There's so much harm that can be done by labeling and dehumanizing people that don't feel the same way you do. We had a big war partly about that in the 40s. Some of you guys may have heard of it. But when we start dehumanizing people that are different than we are, whether physically or ideologically, that's a problem, and it doesn't lead to good things. I'm going to close out with this, and I'm going to wax nostalgic here for a second. Growing up, I was a 90s kid. I didn't remember knowing who our barber voted for, or like I said, even family members, who the neighbor voted for. It wasn't a part of people's identity. I'm sure it was on the fringe, but it wasn't how people define themselves in day-to-day life. You could have disagreements. I remember hushed conversations I overheard between my parents and things like that. And it was, oh, well, I didn't know that they would vote that way. That surprised me. And that was the end of it. We didn't stop interacting with that person. We didn't stop doing business with that person. That just was a tidbit of information that my parents didn't know until somehow they learned it. And other adults in my life, it was the same way. It never defined the person. And I feel like, and I don't have facts to back this up, so I know typical millennial putting feelings over facts. We have gotten so invested in what box we check on a ballot that becomes our identity. Some people, that becomes their identity all the time. Other people, it's every 4 years. And it's the same hate and vitriol and divisiveness. And I'm tired of it. I'm sure a lot of us, if we're being honest with ourselves, are tired of it. Because at the end of the day, who you vote for, that's who you vote for. When you pass away, are your kids going to sit there and be like, I really miss my dad. He was a good Democrat or Republican or Libertarian, or, he abstained, or no, that's not going to define you, right? God, I hope not. I certainly don't want to be remembered that way. I would like to be remembered as, somebody that liked to be in the outdoors, enjoyed music, enjoyed taking pictures and making videos and shooting guns and stuff like that, and hunting, fishing. And I hope to be remembered as a good father and a good husband. I don't give a damn if anybody even remembers how I vote, much less defines who I was because of it. And I would be willing to bet most of us feel the same way. So that's my thoughts on it. I've gone on long enough, and again, I'm no authority on this stuff, and I don't mean to come across as somebody that's got it all figured out. It's a cautionary tale for myself as much as for anybody else. But it's only going to get worse, folks. We're in, April? The election's November. So we got several more months of this. It's going to ramp up, break the cycle, step back, don't fall for the bait. It's not worth it. Nobody's mind was ever changed in a Facebook debate. or a comment section just being whatever. Get out and talk to actual people. Spend the time with the people that are going to remember you spent the time with them. Waste it all arguing with strangers online, or being glued to the TV, letting it raise your blood pressure and making you lose hope. Spend the time with your kids, your spouse, your parents, grandparents, because that's not guaranteed for any of us. The election's going to happen. People are going to vote the way they're going to vote. But tomorrow with our families, that's never promised. Be safe. I'll see y'all around.